It was a cold, foggy night on the Atlantic Ocean. The luxury cruise ship, Ocean's Pride, was sailing smoothly, carrying over 500 passengers. But beneath the glamour and laughter, a dark mystery was about to unfold. Detective James Carter, a tall man with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, was on board. He was not on vacation. He had been hired by the ship's captain to investigate a series of strange events that had occurred during the voyage. First, a passenger's expensive necklace had gone missing. Then, a crew member claimed to have seen a shadowy figure lurking near the engine room at night. But now, things had taken a deadly turn. Earlier that evening, a wealthy businessman named Mr. Harold Granger had been found dead in his cabin. The ship's doctor had declared it a heart attack, but Captain Roberts was not convinced. He called Detective Carter to investigate. Carter arrived at Granger's cabin. The room was neat, with no signs of a struggle. Granger's body lay on the bed, his face pale and his eyes wide open. Carter examined the body carefully. There were no visible wounds, but something felt off. He noticed a faint smell of almonds in the air. Cyanide poisoning. It was possible. Carter began his investigation by questioning the passengers and crew. He started with Granger's wife, Mrs. Evelyn Granger. She was an elegant woman in her 40s, but her eyes were red from crying. "Mrs. Granger, I'm sorry for your loss," Carter said gently. "Can you tell me what happened?" Evelyn wiped her tears. "We had dinner together." Harold seemed fine. He went to the cabin early, saying he was tired. "I stayed to watch the evening show. When I returned, I found him. Like this." Carter nodded. "Did your husband have any enemies? Anyone who might want to harm him?" Evelyn hesitated. Harold was a successful businessman. He had rivals, but I can't think of anyone who would do this. Next, Carter spoke to the ship's doctor, Dr. Pottle. "Did you notice anything unusual about Mr. Granger's body?" he asked. Dr. Patel shook his head. "No signs of violence. It looked like a heart attack. But the smell of almonds, it's suspicious. I took a blood sample for testing, but we won't have the results until we reach the port." Carter thanked the doctor and continued his investigation. He learned that Granger had argued with a fellow passenger, Mr. Victor Lane, earlier that day. Lane was a businessman who had lost a major deal to Granger a few months ago. Carter decided to question him. Lane was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a stern face. He seemed annoyed when Carter approached him. "What do you want?" he asked sharply. "I'm investigating Mr. Granger's death," Carter said calmly. "I heard you two had an argument today. Care to explain?" Lane's face turned red. "That man ruined me. He stole my deal, and now he's dead. Good riddance, but I didn't kill him, if that's what you're thinking." Carter studied Lane's face. He seemed angry, but was he a killer? Carter wasn't sure. As the night went on, Carter pieced together the clues. The missing necklace, the shadowy figure, and now Granger's death. He realized that all these events were connected. Someone on the ship was up to no good, and Granger's death was just the beginning. Carter decided to set a trap. He spread a rumor that Granger had left behind a valuable document in his cabin. That night, he hid in the cabin, waiting. Hours passed, and just as he was about to give up, the door creaked open. A figure slipped inside, holding a flashlight. Carter stepped out of the shadows. "Looking for something?" he asked. The figure froze. It was Mrs. Evelyn Granger. She looked shocked, then angry. "You," she hissed. "You ruined everything." Carter raised an eyebrow. "Care to explain?" Evelyn's face twisted with rage. "Harold was going to leave me. He had found someone else. I couldn't let him ruin my life. So I poisoned him. And now, I'll take what's rightfully mine." She lunged at Carter, but he was ready. He disarmed her easily and called for the ship's security. Evelyn was taken away, and the mystery was solved. The next morning, the passengers were shocked to hear the news. The Ocean's Pride continued its journey, but the shadow of death lingered. Detective Carter stood on the deck, watching the waves. Another case closed, but he knew there would always be more mysteries to solve.